Godzilla. This creature has fascinated millions worldwide. A hulking Goliath, a towering harbinger of destruction, a symbol of humanity's frailty and arrogance. This iconic creature has taken on many forms in all its films, possessing many strange features and abilities. Many have wondered what Godzilla would look like if it were a real creature, and just what kind of creature it would be, and this essay intends to answer that question. The first place to look is cryptozoology, defined by Merriam-Webster as the study and search of animals, and especially legendary animals such as Sasquatch, usually in order to evaluate the possibility of their existence. Many people underestimate the value of cryptozoology, dubbing it a pseudoscience, but it can be a very useful tool considering the fact that science has, on occasion, been late to recognize what others already know to be true. The okapi, for example, an African forest-dwelling relative of the giraffe, was first documented by Sir Henry Morton Stanley in 1890, and it took 11 years for science to confirm its existence when Sir Harry Hamilton Johnston discovered it in 1901. Another latecomer to scientific knowledge, the gorilla, was first documented in 1625 by Andrew Battelle in his book, The Strange Adventures of Andrew Battelle of Ley, in Angola and the adjoining regions. And it would not be until the mid-19th century when science would catch up and finally discover the existence of the gorilla. One creature in ancient history that science has yet to accept is Leviathan. This is what the Book of Job says about Leviathan in chapter 41, verses 15 through 17. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. This passage describes a skin so thick that his scales are like shields. It later says in verses 26 through 27, "Though the sword reaches him, it does not avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He counts iron as straw, and bronze as rotten wood." This description seems to closely resemble Godzilla's skin, which is impervious to missile attacks, and even Mechagodzilla's drill is not able to draw blood from the creature. Now some may speculate that this passage about Leviathan is merely in reference to a crocodile, but this does not make much sense when the Book of Job references its ability to breathe fire. It says in Job chapter 41 verses 18 through 21, "His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his nostrils comes forth smoke, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame comes forth from his mouth." It is very clear that this passage refers to the ability to breathe fire, which, as we all know, crocodiles simply cannot do, but Godzilla can. If Godzilla were to have existed at this time, then he would have surely been described just like the Bible describes Leviathan, helping to provide what could potentially be historical basis for the existence of a Godzilla-like creature. The next three mythological creatures I want to mention are Tiamat from Babylonian mythology, Apapus from Egyptian mythology, and Jormungand from Norse mythology. These three creatures are similar in that they are all serpentine. All of them are associated with evil and chaos. Tiamat and Apapus are directly associated with chaos, and Jormungand is associated with chaos through his father, Loki, who in his own way is a representation of chaos, being a deceiver who is also an enemy of the gods, just like the other two. And all three of these serpents fought against either the king or prince of the gods in their respective mythologies, Marduk, Ra, and Thor, respectively. The similarities between these mythologies helps to strengthen the plausibility of such a creature having existed. These stories are basically the same story retold by three different groups of people, one of which, the Norse, was separated from the other two by an entire continent. Just because there is a similarity between multiple mythological stories does not mean that it is rooted in reality, but it certainly increases the likelihood of that possibility. One of these three myths, Tiamat, is probably closest in relation to Godzilla, because Tiamat is closely associated with the ocean, and Godzilla is famous for his ocean dwelling, which was prominently displayed in his ocean lair in Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Tiamat, Apapus, and Jormungand are all associated with chaos, and considering all Godzilla is known for is destroying cities and civilizations, he seems pretty much just like the embodiment of chaos that these three serpents are supposed to be. Also, these serpents all got into a gigantic battle with another super powerful being, just like Godzilla, who routinely engages other kaiju in climactic battles. Now that what could be historical precedent has been established for a creature like Godzilla being able to exist in the real world, it must be examined how a creature like it would work in real life according to biology. First, Godzilla's origin story should be addressed. Godzilla in the original 1954 movie Gojira is said by Dr. Yamane to be a creature somewhere between marine reptiles and the evolving terrestrial animals that lived during the Cretaceous period. It may seem impossible for a creature that lived so long ago, and is now thought to be extinct, to still exist today, but it is not unprecedented. Crocodiles, for example, are believed to have been around since the late Triassic, the same time as dinosaurs. Just because scientists say a creature is extinct does not mean it is necessarily so. The coelacanth fish, for example, is believed to have lived in the Devonian period, 3 periods before the first dinosaurs. Naturally, they were believed to have been extinct, but in 1938 a live one was caught, though the species had supposedly been extinct for 66 million years. As mentioned before, it sometimes takes science a long time to catch up with its surroundings. And if science can miss something as big as the gorilla, then it is not impossible that something else could be hiding in some deep jungle, or even more mysterious and unknown, at the bottom of the ocean. For example, the giant squid, previously known to science only because of its tendency to float to the surface once dead, was recorded for the first time alive in film in 2001. If a creature of about 33 feet in length can elude live capture for centuries, only being seen when it dies, then it is not only possible, but probable, that other large ocean-dwelling creatures can and have eluded capture, especially if they do not have the same properties that cause them to float to the surface upon death that giant squids do. To conclude, it is very possible that there is a creature thought to have been extinct that is in fact alive and well, especially if it lurks in the still mostly unexplored depths of the ocean. Now back to Dr. Yamane's assertion that Godzilla is a creature somewhere between marine reptiles and the evolving terrestrial animals. Though it is easy to assume that this statement is canon according to Godzilla lore, the accuracy of this statement still must be examined. One thing to notice is that Dr. Yamane does not explicitly assert that Godzilla is a missing link between marine reptiles and dinosaurs, and for good reason, as according to evolutionary theory, wherein we find the concept of missing links, dinosaurs and marine reptiles are not related. The difference is in their limbs. Dinosaurs have limbs that stick straight down from their bodies, like mammals and humans, but marine reptiles have limbs that stick out to the side of their bodies, like modern lizards. This suggests that dinosaurs and marine reptiles are only related in the fact that they are both kinds of reptiles, but share no relation other than that. Marine reptiles did not evolve into dinosaurs, and vice versa. With this knowledge, it can be determined that Godzilla was not, in fact, a marine reptile, because his limbs are not out to the side, but, like a human, go straight down rather than sprawling out. This means that he is probably a dinosaur, which is supported by Godzilla canon. After all, Dr. Yamane's presentation in Gojira was only an educated guess, but in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, the 1991 movie, the characters actually get to go back in time and see that Godzilla is, in fact, unmistakably a dinosaur. Just because he is not a marine reptile does not mean that he can't spend a lot of time in the water. Judging by another famous dinosaur's bone density, the Spinosaurus, we can guess that this creature was aquatic because its bone density most likely allowed it to control its buoyancy. Another clue is that, unlike other meat-eating dinosaurs, which have curved, jagged teeth, Spinosaurus has straight and smooth teeth that lack serration. This is evidence that it was designed to eat fish. Though we don't know Godzilla's bone density, we do know that he has straight, conical, non-serrated teeth, just like the Spinosaurus. giving us evidence that Godzilla did indeed feed on fish before he was mutated into a creature dependent on radioactive energy, meaning he could probably swim, which Godzilla is famous for. To further understand what Godzilla would be like in real life, it must first be determined what species of dinosaur Godzilla belongs to. In the movies, he is a completely fictional species of dinosaur called the Godzillasaurus. If Godzilla comes from a new and previously undiscovered species of dinosaur, to get a clear glimpse of what this new species would be like in real life, it needs to be known what kind of dinosaurs he would have been related to. According to a paper written by Dr. Kenneth Carpenter, the same person who named the real-life dinosaur Godzilla after Godzilla, Godzilla would have been a very primitive form of theropod, flesh-eating dinosaur. According to him, the fact that Godzilla has 4 fingers means that he appears very early on the evolutionary chain, as according to evolutionary science, theropods began to evolve less fingers, like, for example, the T-Rex. He also points out a possible relation to another dinosaur named Ceratosaurus, due to Ceratosaurus having a row of small, bony plates lining its spine, like Godzilla's dorsal plates, only much smaller. Dr. Carpenter also points out Godzilla's thick tail, and guesses that the tail is used to store fat, which is why Godzilla is never seen eating in the original movie, as he would be capable of feeding on the fat stored in his tail. However, this enlarged tail could also be linked with his aquatic locomotion. The Spinosaurus also has a large tail, according to modern reconstructions of the dinosaur, and Godzilla already has one characteristic of the Spinosaurus: smooth, straight teeth, so the thick tail can be another trait Godzilla and the Spinosaurus share. Dr. Carpenter concludes his discussion on the similarity Godzilla shares to other dinosaurs by commenting on the similarity Godzilla's facial structure shares to Carnotaurus. To summarize, if Godzilla had existed, according to evolutionary science, he would probably have been a member of a primitive group of dinosaurs, and an ocean-dwelling relative of both Ceratosaurus and Carnotaurus, who feeds on fish in the ocean, just like a Spinosaur.